It's time to wrap up my reading for 2024. Hi, I'm Alex, this is Pucksandpaperbacks, and it is the last recent reads of 2024. I have read really great books this year. I will have a ton of content coming out where I recap the end of the year, but today I am sharing the last books I read in 2024. This will be spanning from November to December, and I will link my last recent reads above if you missed it. I have 14 books to share with you. All of the titles will be down below, along with an affiliate link if you want to purchase them. It's no extra cost to you, but it really helps out my channel. If you want to pick up any of the books that I mentioned, using my link really helps. So thanks if you do. Let's get into the books. For November, I read 2 picture books. For Book Riot's Read Harder challenge, I wanted to complete the prompt to read a picture book that was released 5 years ago. And I read 2 picture books. One completes that prompt, and another I just wanted to read. This is Love in the Library by Maggie Dakuta Hall. This was very popular and created some buzz because the publisher was awful. They asked the author to remove certain language because it talked about racism and World War II, and it was just very messy. And I've always wanted to read this. However, I got it from Libby, and I genuinely was so confused because mine didn't have any text. I was so confused. I work with children's books for my day job, so I know that there's some children's books don't have text. So I was like, oh, maybe this doesn't have text. The whole controversy was that there was a certain language in there. But then when you think about the controversy, it didn't make sense. So I need to reread this because mine didn't have text. I don't know what happened. I guess I'm gonna go to the library and read it physically. This is a moving love story set at an internment camp in the US in Minidoka, where the United States cruelly detained Japanese Americans. Our female protagonist, Tama, works at the camp library, and she meets George, and they fall in love. I just wish I could have actually read the book because, like I said, I didn't have the text. So I know this is very beloved, and I hope to be able to rectify that this year. Next, I read My Papi Has a Motorcycle by Isabel Quintero. This was so adorable. The title is self-explanatory, but it follows a young Latinx girl riding on a motorcycle with her papi, and you get to see her neighborhood. It is so sweet. I really enjoyed it. And last, for Buzzwordathon, November's prompt was to read a book with relationships, so I read Sisters of the Lost Nation by Nick Medina. I believe I had this on audio, and it was fantastic. If you enjoy Angeline Boulley, I highly recommend this, especially if you liked Warrior Girl on Earth. This was incredible. It's a thriller about an indigenous girl who sees young girls and women going missing in her town. When her sister goes missing, she needs to figure out what happened. And it's brutal because a lot of people don't care and they're just like, oh, you're exaggerating, it's fine. Trigger warnings for MMIW and drug use. That's everything for November. Fall is not my biggest reading season, but for December, I read a lot. Starting with the middle grade Nayra and the Djinn by Yasmin Omarada. This is set during Ramadan following Nayra, who is just overwhelmed with everything. She's in middle school getting profusely bullied, and she just feels like she can't do anything right. So when she finds a group chat of other Muslim American teens, she feels so at home and like people get her. I love having a sense of community in this book because Nayra just feels so alone. So while she's in this group chat, she's visited by a jinn, which is a mythical creature in Islam folklore. And basically, the jinn is there to help her solve her problems, but there's something bigger going on here. I did enjoy this. I did think it was a little all over the place because there's not just one plotline going on, so it is a little confusing to follow at some points. But overall, I was just happy for Muslim American kids and teens to be able to see themselves in a book like this, especially that it was set during Ramadan. She does have a friend who is also Muslim, and she gets to celebrate Ramadan with her, which I thought was nice. But I just was thinking about the kids getting to see themselves represented in this book, and that's why I enjoy it. But also, I thought that it was well done. I liked the illustrations, but like I said, the story was a little bit all over the place at some points. I filmed a lot of reading vlogs this month, and I don't even know how I did it. The first reading vlog was where I had Spotify Wrapped choose my TBR. I had been wanting to do this for about a year now, so I was so glad to finally do it. For the vlog, I read the manga Like a Butterfly Volume 1 by Sue Marshida. This is a YA set in high school following a shy girl and a shy boy who have a crush on each other, and it is their slow burn romance. It was a little too slow for me, but I thought it was adorable. The way it encompasses the feeling of having a crush in high school and being too scared to tell the other person was so real. Then I read Your Driver is Waiting by Priya Guns. It's safe to say I enjoyed this given how many tabs are in it. I tabbed this a bunch because I loved the conversations that were happening. We're following Damani, who is a rideshare driver, and she has a lot going on in her life. Her father recently died, her mother is sick, and she is the main income in her family. While she's rideshare driving and trying to make ends meet, around her in this town, all of her friends and peers are protesting for certain things, especially rideshare driving. The rideshare drivers want full ownership of the rideshare companies because they feel since they do all of the work, the CEOs and corporations shouldn't have a penny. This really talks about performative activism, white feminism. I commented this as such a fun age, and if you read that book, I think you'll enjoy this one. This is queer, and I read it for Chapel Roan, so go check out that vlog if you want to hear my full thoughts, because you get my full reaction in that vlog. For that vlog, I also read A Man Called Uva by Frederick Bachman. This is following Uva, who is a 59-year-old grumpy man. His wife recently passed away, and he feels like he doesn't have any purpose in life, so his goal is to unalive himself, but his neighbors just keep bothering him about everything. This was comedic and dark, but overall I really enjoyed it. I loved just getting to see more of this character and discussing the purpose of life and feeling fulfilled. Also talks about grief. It's not a light book, but what I love about Frederick Bachman is he's able to add comedic relief to contrast the dark. Then I participated in the Queer Lit Readathon, which was hosted from the 15th to the 21st. I was hit with a sinus infection, I believe on the 10th, and I didn't start feeling better until a little bit before Christmas, and I'm still recovering. So I really didn't get to participate in the readathon like I hoped, so I just extended it for myself and put out a vlog where I read 2024 releases. I finished up Your Driver is Waiting during the week of the Queer Lit Readathon, so I counted it for some of the prompts, and I read the memoir Pretty by KB Brookins. This is about a non-binary trans masc person who is an adoptee and grew up in Fort Worth, Texas. This memoir is written in poems and prose, which is beautiful. I love trans masc books about masculinity, so I enjoyed this one. It's really heavy though. It is about KB's childhood and upbringing, and it talks about trans masc people, trans issues, especially masculinity. It is very heavy though, so please check the trigger warnings. Big trigger warning for essay, as it talks about it multiple times. There's also some points where they are not consenting or they don't know what consent is at the time, so please tread lightly reading this because it's very heavy, but it's an important read. Since I got sick and most of my plans were derailed for the month, I was catching up on a lot of reading and content, so I wasn't able to read as many festive things as I wanted, which was such a bummer. I did find a sapphic novella on a whim that unfortunately I was disappointed by. This is Sugar, Spice, and Christmas Nice by Anne Hagen, and the only reason I read this was for Buzzword, to finish out the board with holiday words. This is a second chance romance novella set in Philadelphia at an Italian bakery. We're following Layla, who recently broke up with her long-time girlfriend of 4 years and probably longer. Being in her long-distance relationship through college, things were not working out, and specifically in the book, We don't get too many details about their breakup, but there's a line that says trust was broken. I just wish I knew more about the breakup. They were just too forgiving to each other, in my opinion. One thing I did enjoy about the book, though, was a character named Destiny, who is a black girl who loves to bake, and she is interning at the bakery. According to the characters, she is such a great baker, and she wants to go to culinary school. I wish I had just had a book of her, because I really enjoyed her. I just hated some of the decisions that Layla made. It felt very rushed, especially towards the end, and there was a lot going on in this book that I was so confused about. This is a novella, and I actually wish it was a novel. It needed to be fleshed out so much more because I was just confused by all of the decisions and some of the things that were happening. I also want to say my one gripe, because I am Italian, is this was an Italian bakery, and they do mention cannolis, but that was the only thing that really gave off Italian bakery vibes. I was so confused. It just felt like a regular bakery because they were talking about making cakes and cupcakes, but there was no specifics. It wasn't a specific Italian dessert, no tiramisu. I was so confused. It did not feel like an Italian bakery to me at all. So this was just fine. It definitely wasn't my favorite, and I wish that I could have read more Christmassy books, but there's always next year or Christmas in July. One of the Queer Lit Readathon prompts was gender bent retelling. I ended up using Your Driver is Waiting for this because it's a taxi driver retelling, but I started the graphic novel Mismatched, which is an Emma retelling. Now, I've never read anything by Jane Austen, so I didn't really know much going into this, but I was pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite thing, but I enjoyed what it did. We're following Evan, who is a beauty influencer and matchmaker. When a new person comes to school, he immediately befriends her and wants to give her a makeover and be her best friend. She's very hesitant because he's very abrasive and just a lot. They kind of ease into their friendship. He is in the GSA. He does like everything in school. You could say he is one of the popular kids. Then we meet his brother-in-law, Davi, who I believe is a year older than him and is in college. I really enjoyed him. I would honestly like to see a book about him. I like Davi's character just because he was chill and also spoke his mind to Evan, because Evan does a lot of things that you're like, oh my god, I hate this guy. He's really an unlikable character, and I believe that's the whole point of Emma. It is a dramatic character, but correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I've never read it. Essentially, there's a lot of drama going on in this book, but I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. It's not my favorite thing, but I was glad that I read it. The last book I read for my Queer Lit Readathon / 2024 releases vlog was the book that broke me. Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane. I'm so glad I finally read this. But oh boy, did it really break me in several pieces. I put out my vlog. You can see the heartbreak that this book put me through. We're following two English teachers, Logan and Rosemary, who once dated in high school. When their high school English teacher tells them that he is sick and dying of cancer, he proposes. They drive him from California to Maine and do a road trip, or a death trip. Now, these girls are like, no, I don't want this. They're just having a rough time in life. Both girls are dealing with a lot of things at the moment, and that would just be the icing on the cake. So at first, they're hesitant because why would they want to drive somebody to their death? But they agree and have a wonderful summer and learn a lot about Joe, their English teacher, that they didn't before. Talks about the AIDS crisis, losing people, the queer community. There's a lot of sense of community in this book, and being a second chance romance. I loved having these two characters who haven't talked in a long time and have some unresolved problems that have to work it out during a road trip. That is so perfect to me. And I liked that it was long enough. The audiobook was 12 hours, and I enjoyed the length, which is something I don't say very often, but it just made sense. I also enjoyed that the character development was more interpersonal, and both characters learn what they need to do in order to be in a relationship again. I just thought this was perfect. Obviously, it's going to be my best books of the year because it was so fantastic, and I haven't had a book break me into an ugly cry in a very long time. So go and watch that vlog if you want to know more about the book and if you just want to watch me cry at a book. Oh, that one really hurt me. To me, this book is perfect. It was so, so good. Now, my end of the year reads. I do have a vlog where you will be seeing my reactions to these books. That will be coming on Saturday. It is finally my catching up my reading goals vlog that I started in July. The one I keep saying, it has my footage of reacting to reading The Darkness Outside Us. This will be coming on Saturday, so turn on my post notifications so you don't miss out. But here are the books I read for the end of the year. I had one prompt left for Buzzwordathon, which was only, so I scoured through Libby and I found a hidden gem. This is Rana Joon and the One Only Now by Shadi. This is a YA coming-of-age novel following Rana Joon, an Iranian-American lesbian teenage girl whose best friend Louis recently passes away unexpectedly, and she is filled with grief and she doesn't know how to continue on. But as time passes, she realizes the best way to honor him is to enter a rap battle with his poems that he would have entered. The only problem is she is terrified of public speaking. Thanks to her basketball coach, she ends up getting the confidence to enter the rap battle. If you like On the Come Up, which is one of my favorite books, and The Poet X, I think you'll absolutely enjoy this. This has about 300 ratings on Goodreads, and I was shocked. It came out in 2023, and I guess it just flew under the radar. I think this is such a hidden gem. I was so surprised that this doesn't have more hype, and I would love for it too, so if you're interested in it, definitely pick it up. I'm excited for you to see the vlog where I share more of my thoughts. I also wanted to finish up Read Queerly, which is a yearly reading challenge created by my friend Alex at Obscure Pages on Instagram. I wanted to complete the Dragon Space, so I read The Tea Dragon Festival and The Tea Dragon Tapestry by Kay O'Neill. The Tea Dragon Festival was my personal favorite. I thought that it wrapped up very nicely. My only problem when I read these books is, why are tea dragons not real? If you haven't heard of this series, it is a children's series with fantastical creatures, dragons, queerness, and it is just adorable. If you need a cozy fantasy, I highly recommend this. It is so good for days that maybe you're having anxiety and you don't want to read a dark book. These are such a comfort read. And last, for the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge, I completed the prompt, read a book with 24 letters in the title. The Secret Sunshine Project by Benjamin Dean. This was so wholesome, yet very sad. You'll see in the vlog, but I really need some happy books in 2025. I can't read another sad book. I just can't. This was wholesome but sad. We're following Bee and her family. Her father passes away to cancer and she is forced to go to her grand's in the countryside for the summer. She notices that her sister Riley is devastated because she wanted to go to London Pride. That was the last time they were all together as a family and happy. So Bee wants to make her sister happy and she's going to do whatever she can to see Riley smile again and bring her sunshine. So her and her friends come up with an idea to have a pride of their own. This was so adorable. I loved it so much. There's an evil woman in the village, Rita, who is dampening everybody's mood and she is just not a great person. I've read Benjamin Dean before. You probably have heard me rave about his debut book, Me and My Dad and the End of the Rainbow. I just love the way he normalizes queerness in his books. He is awesome, and if you're looking for a middle grade, I highly recommend his work. And that concludes the final recent reads of the year. Let me know if you've read any of these or if you can add them now to your TBR, and maybe what your favorite book of December was. I would love to know. If you enjoyed this video and you want to support me further, the best way to do so is to give a like and leave a comment. You can even just leave a snowflake emoji to let me know you stayed. Thank you to my top patrons for their continuous support. If you want to support me further on Patreon, I am going to be having so much content coming for you. I recently did a video talking about changes, so that'll be linked down below for you. There are free and paid options. It's the best way to support my channel and my content so I can keep creating. If you want more, I'll leave my Spotify Wrapped vlog here and you can subscribe here. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you in my next video very soon. Bye.